How much does a cruise actually cost?
Bree's going to do most of the talk of this because she is our lovely local travel agent. But I will tell you, it's not all inclusive in the sense that most of us are used to.
Yeah.
In other words, all your alcoholic drinks, all your food at every single location, all that stuff, it's not all inclusive. With our honeymoon at the resort, there was multiple restaurants, there was bars all over the place. The only thing we needed money for when we were in the resort was tips.
Yeah.
Everything else was there. Everything else was included. If I wanted ceviche for 8 meals a day, I could have it. But that's not always the case. That's not the case with the cruise. So why don't you give us a little more of a rundown of what the cost and what the extra expenses are going to be on the cruise?
Yeah, so we'll just start off with the cost of a cruise. So for us in particular, we cruised the first week of January. That's going to be off-season for most cruise lines, and most ports of call as well, and your destinations and stuff. So we paid just under $1,000 for our cruise. I don't remember the exact cost, but that
include the extras like the drink package and food package?
No.
Okay, sorry.
That $1,000 was base costs. So that starts with a $200 deposit. And then you do have an option of doing a payment plan or just making the last lump sum on the final due date, which is what we ended up doing. But there are several things that you'll have to keep in mind that if you want something more than that base cruise, you are going to have to pay extra. So we started this part because we just want you guys to have a heads up that once you pay off the cruise, there may be some additional expenses that you may incur that you maybe weren't prepared for. So the first couple things I want to talk about you can actually include in your initial payment. The first one is insurance. As a travel agent working in the COVID era, I really, really, really don't recommend you traveling without travel insurance. If you get sick before you go or you test positive, that travel insurance is there to reap the majority of that money back for you. If you test positive on site, so a lot of all-inclusive places, you're able to test before you return back to the U.S. Cruises is a little bit different, but if you get sick when you're there, insurance is there to help you with that too. It helps with flights and changes like that. So if you are traveling right now and you don't have travel insurance, I would really recommend you reconsider that decision. Number 2 are your gratuities. So keep in mind, like we mentioned earlier, these staff members are on the ship anywhere between 7 months to a year contracts at a time. And yes, they get a base pay, but do keep in mind, they're very much like the restaurant industry. Those tips make up the difference for them, in the form of gratuities. Now, you've got a couple different ways to do that. You can either pay your gratuities up front,
which we did do.
Which we decided to do. That way we didn't have to carry cash around, we didn't have to take our cards with us. It was a much easier experience to do it that way. Or, as you're on the ship and designate whether you want to pay gratuities at a certain point, you can either pay cash, you can put it on your room and pay it at the end, whichever one you decide is easiest for you.
We did a little bit of it too, as well.
We did a little bit of that too. So the day that we left, or disembarked, they did leave us with a couple tip envelopes. Now, we decided to put some extra cash in for our housekeeper and for... that helped us at Giovanni's. Just because we felt like they deserved a little bit extra.
I want to point out that was really cool because any other tip you did, so like we tipped a little bit extra at each restaurant that they charged to our account, we did the preview tips, that gets divided amongst the entire ship, which is important because there's people you never see. I don't know if the captain gets tips, but like
I think he gets paid pretty well already.
Yeah, but the people that work on who are driving the boat and the people who work directly with him, they do a lot of work that you don't see.
Right.
There's people that do. I'm sure there's people who just wash dishes or just wash bedding, laundry. I couldn't think of the right word. Sorry. But so it's cool that they get that. But then when you get somebody who gives you outstanding service, like we felt like we got from our housekeeper and from Nemanja Giovanni's, you want to reward their outstanding service. So we didn't leave huge tips for them, but we were able to leave a little bit specifically for them. So they'll get their share of everything else, and then they got that specific one. So
yeah, so for our housekeeper, just to kind of keep in mind, we left about an extra $5 a day. So we left about $25 for her. We just left an extra $10 for Nemanja. Again, the rest of those gratuities got included in our base payment, and that just gets divided by the ship. So those are just two things that are optional for you to do, but I do want you to keep in mind. The next couple things are, there's various packages available on cruise ships. So you've got internet packages, you've got beverage packages, and you've got dining packages. So kind of like Brant mentioned, the drink package, it's not an all-inclusive situation. So if you want booze or sodas, you have to, or specialty coffees, you have to buy a beverage package on top of what you paid for those items.
It does, real quick, it does feel like this varies a little bit from cruise ship to cruise ship. Like I know Disney doesn't have a all-inclusive alcohol package. You have to buy alcohol per drink on Disney cruises. And we had 3 tiers, but I'll let you.
Yeah, you've got 3 different tiers. So you've got your unlimited beverage package, which is going to include everything that's on the ship. So that's going to be your alcohol, that's going to be beer, that's going to be wine, that's going to be sodas, specialty coffees, milkshakes, things like that. Really, the only things that come with the base package are going to be water, teas, and like juice if you're at the buffet. Coffee. Yeah, and basic coffee for breakfast. So it's a pretty limited package. Now, if you don't want to drink and you just want to do sodas like I did, it's like an extra $20 a day per person. It's pretty reasonable. You get a refillable glass.
That's actually kind of have a cute or a sensory code in it so that you can only fill it up while you're on that trip.
Yeah.
The next level, which is the level we actually did, included those drinks and then smoothies and milkshakes, specialty coffees and stuff. I think that's one mistake we might have made on this trip. Is I think going forward, you would have just done the soda level.
I don't drink coffee, so that one I didn't end up using it for that.
And honestly, I probably didn't need it. I drank like one coffee. Well, on the service notice, there was a lot of where we didn't get filled in on what our packages included very well.
Right.
So the first day I didn't have any coffee because I didn't know what I could do with it. The second day I did have some, but I don't know that I would have needed that. But it's definitely something to think about. Anything else in the beverage packages? Or does that pretty much cover it?
No, that's pretty much it for the beverage packages.
I'm going to real quick talk about the internet, if that's okay with you. Yeah. So the internet access package. Now, what I'll tell you is, first thing is we have T-Mobile. Most cellular services have it. My plan is an old, outdated plan. But it includes 180 countries international service. Doesn't include phone calls, but includes text messages and some data and that kind of stuff. It works in the Bahamas. I almost said Bermuda. Inside joke. I kept saying that.
The whole trip, y'all. He was saying, we're going to Bermuda. No, we're going to the Bahamas.
But anyways, so the first 2 days, we were co-located most of the day. That is in the Bahamas, and there was cellular service. So we had some, not the greatest, but we had some service. And Nassau was the same way. We wanted to test out the internet access, and then we knew we were going to be at sea all day on Thursday.
Yeah.
So we weren't going to have anything. So we actually bought the internet packages. What was this? $40, is that right?
So the internet package varies between $20 to $30 a day for a single device. So we ended up doing a double device that last day, and I think we paid like $33 total for both of them, and that's per day. So y'all keep that in mind. If you want internet outside of, because you're essentially on airplane mode once you get on the ship if you don't have the internet access.
Now, Royal Caribbean did have it, and I would assume other ships have it as well.
Yeah.
You could connect to the Wi-Fi so that you could use the mobile app.
Yes.
So that was the only thing we could really do. On the Thursday, though, when we bought the package, a little expensive, but I will say it worked pretty well.
Yeah.
There wasn't really anything that we had an issue with. May have taken a little bit longer every once in a while to load a video or whatnot, but it was there. So.
Social media pulled up pretty quickly, but like if I wanted to watch a reel or if we wanted to watch a YouTube video, it did have to load for a few seconds before it would really come up. But other than that, considering we were on a ship in the middle of the ocean, it did pretty well.
No, the best package we bought.
The best package was the dining package. So, again, this goes back to not the true all-inclusive definition. So you've got several dining rooms on the ship, like Windjammer that we mentioned, where we had breakfast every morning. Those are going to be included in the base payment that you make. But there are a lot of specialty restaurants on the ship. So we've talked about Giovanni's a couple times. That's the Italian restaurant on the ship. What was it? Chops?
Yeah, there's Giovanni's, Chop Steakhouse, Izumi.
Izumi was the Japanese sushi hibachi place.
There was what was it? What was the sports bar?
Oh gosh. Playmakers.
Playmakers. There was Johnny Rockets on our ship.
Yeah.
And there was a place called Ships and Chips.
You gotta be
like
careful
fish and
with
chips,
that
but
one.
Ships and Chips. The package we bought, we got meals at Giovanni's, and chops were included just straight off the bat. We didn't have to pay anything for them.
Right.
They were included. Izumi was a $10 surcharge.
Not a big deal though. And I think if you're going to do sushi, it's a little bit more. But I felt like...
Was a sushi, from my understanding, we did not do sushi because we didn't have time. But from my understanding, sushi was similar to Playmakers. In Playmakers, you got the $20 per person credit that you could then spend on food. I don't know what the dollar amount is. We didn't ask because we just didn't have time to do sushi as well. But the sushi restaurant, from my understanding, is the same way. And Johnny Rockets, from my understanding.
Yes.
I will say my one disappointed, we paid for unlimited dining, and
it wasn't unlimited.
Ships and Chips wasn't included.
Well, and I think having to pay a $10 surcharge for a hibachi place made sense. And then having a stated credit for like Playmakers or Johnny Rockets, I think worked out really well because the price points at these restaurants are way lower than you're going to expect from a normal like sports bar here in the U.S. So,
and that's what bothered me so much about Ships and Chips is we wound up getting, and I don't know the exact amount, but we got a calamari tray or calamari plate, which had some fried calamari and some French fries. We got a shrimp plate, which was fried shrimp and French fries, and you got
classic fish and chips.
Yeah, fish and chips. And the total was like $20.
Super cheap. Well, and same thing at Playmakers. We got like 2 different things of wings, burgers.
And that was covered by our $40 credit. But my point being, though, we got all that at Ships and Chips when we paid $20, and it wasn't included. I mean, roughly, what did we pay for the unlimited dining? Do you remember?
We paid about $150 a person, but keep in mind that is going to fluctuate depending on how long your trip is. So
I kind of felt like you hear people a lot of times, and I'm not one of those people that gets caught up in it, with like, oh, they're changing this to make money, they're changing this to make money, they're changing this to make money. Just felt like that really, to me, felt like nickel and diming somebody. Because to me, so the example, and a lot of you guys probably heard of this, taking away Fast Pass and putting Genie Plus at Disney. To me, that's not necessarily nickel and diming because they're going to make a fair amount of money off of it. You're going to make a good income off of Genie Plus. I don't necessarily agree with this, so please don't kill me.
Don't come for us in the comments, guys, please.
It's not necessarily nickel and diming because there's a large amount of money that's going to come in for that. This literally to me felt like somebody comes up to the register, their order is $1.05, they don't have a nickel, and then you just tell them they can't have anything.
Right.
Or they're spending $20 and they're 25 cents short, and you tell them, well, I'm sorry, I can't sell it to you now. You can leave your till 25 cents or 55 cents short. The cost of the food at Ships and Chips, it felt like a little bit they were, like I said, just nickel and dime.
Yeah, well, and again, it goes back to that. If you're going to call it the unlimited dining package, it should be unlimited. Otherwise, we may have had a better bet just paying individually for the restaurants.
So we probably wouldn't have because we really took advantage of it. But if you want to eat at Ships and Chips a lot because you're going to be at the pool a lot, because that is the pool bar restaurant, then it may not be worth it. So definitely something to look at. Look and see what's on there. We did forget 2 places. There was the pizza place, but that's included for everybody. Unlimited pizza, that was really cool. And then, of course, Ben & Jerry's. Ben & Jerry's is not included on any of the dining plans.
But worth every dime.
That doesn't upset me. I understand, it's branded as a Ben & Jerry's store. They're not just selling Ben & Jerry's ice cream, all that kind of stuff. So
yeah. So you've got a couple options with the dining. You've got a few options with the beverages. But, again, it's one of those things where you guys are going to have to make a decision for yourselves and for your families how you want to play that. You can pay just for the cruise and eat at just the dining places and be totally fine. And just go to Cocoa Key and be totally fine. Just go shopping in Nassau and be totally fine. But if you're like us, we feel really responsible for making sure we are showing you all of the options available at the places that we go. So we want to take advantage of all of these things to make sure that you know what your options are.
Even without that, though, we love to eat. So, like, eating the different kind of foods and all that kind of, it was well worth it. I would say, as the newbie and the amateur and all that kind of stuff, a travel agent is really helpful in this. There's a lot of things where I was able to, you know, it was a little bit different because Bree was booking our trip and she was one of the people going on the trip, right? But I was able to bounce a lot of ideas off of her. So definitely, with a lot of what we've talked about here, I'd recommend talking to a travel agent to help out with that. And
I've got a request link in the description. So if you guys are curious in getting a free no obligation quote for your next vacation, use that link in the description.
One last thing to remember on costs.
Ooh.
That a lot of people don't think about is the cost of getting to the port.
Yeah.
Now, you may think, well, I'm going to drive, so it's only the cost of my gas, whatever, right? You still got to pay for parking. It was $85. That was actually really reasonable. $85
for the whole week. Keep that in mind.
We paid that when we pulled up, and that was all we paid.
Yeah.
But of course, remember, if you fly into MCO or even the Jacksonville airport, if you're going to Jacksonville or wherever, you got to have transportation to get to the ship. So that last little bit of cost, that's the type of things I think a lot of people forget about. It's something that I often forget about that you've helped me not. Although we were both, neither of us were upset, but we both, I think, were kind of surprised a little bit when we had to pay for parking. I don't think either of us were necessarily thinking about it. I don't want to say expecting it because it wasn't like a disappointment we had to pay for it. It's just like, oh shit, yeah, we do have to pay for that.
Yeah.
Well,
and what I'll say is if you do fly into like MCO or one of those other airports, do know that there are transfers that you can pay for that'll take you from the airport to Port Canaveral. I feel like renting an Uber or Lyft becomes really expensive at that point. So I would recommend
41 miles or so, I think is what it said.
Yeah, that might be a lot. So look into the transfers if you're flying, and if you're driving, do keep in mind that particular parking lot that we were in, which was right next to the port, so I'm assuming it's going to be the same just for Port Canaveral, regardless of where you park, was that $85 for the
Pretty similar, I would think, per different cruise lines. So.
Yeah.